Valorant 7.1 is finally here with some interesting changes, and the meta has finally stabilized, so we can tell you the best and worst heroes in this low elo tier list. And the first tier we gotta talk about is the D tier. And these are characters that can be good under set circumstances, but there are typically characters that are easier to get value with, or if you don't reach those circumstances, the character is unplayable. Now, a character that is actually getting buffed as of 7.1 is Deadlock, and she's still here. And you might be confused by that, but with GravNet buffed, it's still not enough to make this character very viable. Every single one of Deadlock's abilities is fairly underpowered and too expensive, and buffing just this one is not going to be enough to bring her over the edge, especially when you compare her directly to the many other Sentinels that are super freaking powerful right now. Now, next up is Astra. And Astra is still a very strong agent, but it's an agent that requires coordination that you just won't find very often in low elo. In addition, she's often only played in double controller, which is way harder to pull off in low elo, considering it's very hard to find even one controller. And for those reasons alone, Astra's in the D tier for low elo play specifically. The last up in the D tier, we have Harbor. And Harbor is here for many of the same reasons that Astra is, although they can feel even more severe. Harbor simply doesn't work as a full line smoker like Viper does on many of the maps she's good in, and he often is needed to be played in double controller. Without the coordination or consistent double controller setups, Harbor is just going to be lacking compared to some of the other options that are more necessary in the low elo meta. Now, we've recently created a brand new guide showcasing the exact advice given to players to help them climb stupid fast from unranked to diamond. You can take a look at one-on-one coaching sessions and how our coaches simplify the game into easy to follow steps that will instantly skyrocket your rank. The incredible thing is, you don't have to take our word for it because we actually just guarantee you'll climb or your money back. We've tested our product enough to know that it works, and if it doesn't work, you shouldn't pay. So if you're someone who's looking to climb out of elo hell, or maybe you just don't even believe it's really possible, consider giving us a shot. You won't be disappointed. The next up, we do gotta talk about C tier, and make no mistake, these characters are strong, but there is some reason why they're not making it to the higher tiers, whether there's more competitive competition for them in a similar slot, or if they're very niche on the maps that they're played in. Regardless of the reason, these characters are good, but they might need proper setup and specific situations to get the full value out of them. First off, we gotta talk about Breach, and Breach is a super strong character, but he's a character that is so much better with coordination and consistency. So if you're rocking him in a duo, he's probably a high B tier, maybe even a low A, but in a low elo tier list, especially for solo queue, this character just lags behind simply a little bit. Next up is Gecko, who has a ton of great utility, but can often be hard to use in a ranked environment. If you put in the work, though, to know this hero inside and out, I do think that you could still succeed and get a lot of value with him. Next up is Yoru, and Yoru is an agent with all the tools to carry you, but most of the time, people don't have the skill to back him up. Yoru has a really low win rate in low elo, but a very high win rate in high elo. He is just simply very freaking hard, and not only challenges you mechanically, but game sense wise as well. So you need to have sick aim and a big freaking brain to get all the value you can out of him. Now, for these reasons, it might be worth spending the time to learn him in low elo so that you could pop off in high elo, but you have to make that call. You sacrifice your win rate now for your win rate later. Next up, we got to talk about KO, who's obviously very strong, but has a really low win rate in most ranks. And this is true from low rank to high rank, and he has some of the lowest win rates in low rank. This is for many reasons, but it's mainly because KO is hard to master and hard for bad teams to get value out of, but on some maps, he could be dominant anyways. I highly suggest to learn Ascent lineups for this agent and duo queue if you want to get the highest value out of him. And if you're going to commit to him, I would become a KO specialist. Last up in the C tier, we have Chamber. And Chamber is a very powerful solo carry agent if you can hit your shots, but he doesn't provide much utility to outplay your opponents. Now, that being said, with Breeze in the map pool, he's still very strong and is a character that has many of the tools that you need to run over the enemy if you know how to play him right. Now, next up, we do got to talk about the B tier characters that have high carry potential or are just super solid on multiple maps. And the first character we got to talk about is Brimstone. And Brimstone's a really reliable character with a fair amount of stalling utility. He's simple to learn and brings large amounts of value if you are willing to put in the effort. Now, of course, Brimstone's overpowered if you learn a dozen lineups, but on Skill Cap, we actually have the best Brimstone lineup playbook, so you can learn 100 of the best ones super quickly. Check it out down below. Now, next up, we do got to talk about Neon, and Neon is potentially really powerful in low elo because of her ability to catch people off guard and people not playing around it appropriately. That being said, Neon is rather hard to learn and can be difficult to know when to go in for more or be disciplined and retreat. Now, I will say, as a bit of advice, good Neons don't only use aggression all the time, but use their aggression to enhance their slower pace of play. Make sure that you're not only going super aggressive and become predictable in how fast you move, how fast you rotate, and how fast you engage. Next up, we have Sova, who's a very strong and flexible agent with both carry potential and strong meta play. That being said, it can be fairly difficult to master him, and there's a ton of initiator competition, so I don't think that he quite deserves a higher tier, even if he's very, very good. That being said, do the work, learn this character inside and out, and don't be afraid of lineups, and you could easily make Sova an A or even S tier agent, but it's up to you. Next up, we have Sage, and Sage has some of the highest win rates in the game, and this is for many reasons, but the first is just reliable impact. Sage doesn't have peaks and valleys, just consistently good impact. Forcing rotates is also very, very strong, as most rotates just fail in low elo, and Sage is very good at denying rushes, which is the most common strategy. The next up is Fade, and Fade is a really good low elo initiator because of her ability for Dog and I to easily punish positional mistakes, which happen a lot. They just offer a ton of value for really little setup. Now, the one tip I'll give you is try and communicate with your team. Simple ability usage. It just goes a long way to have your teammate not have an ability out or just be fiddling around when your eye's going out or your dog's going out. And if they just have their gut out, they can just shoot at whatever you set up for them. Now, last in the B tier is undoubtedly Jett. And Jett is one of the best agents in the game. She can make space on sight by dashing past line of sight or utility, and you might even expect her to be much higher on this list, but there's several things working against Jett. She's very hard mechanically to carry with, and low elo players don't always follow up with your tight engagements. She could be making the right play on Jett, but still not winning engagements, and that's a little frustrating. Now, the tip we would give you, though, is to slow your engagements down to really help your team catch up so that you can make sure that they're at least in a position to try to follow you up. Now, on the website, we actually have guides breaking down Demon 1, Durkar, Tens, and Aspas on their Jett play, so if you want to even tap into a percentage of their impact, check it out down below. Next up, we have the A tier. Characters that are just very, very strong, have the ability to either super hard carry in low elo or are just too powerful in the meta to ignore. First off is Skye, and Skye is just undoubtedly one of the most powerful characters in the game right now. And while she's actually weaker in low elo, without coordination and team play, the base power of her kit is just so high that it's hard to rank her any lower than this. And she's just one of the best initiators in the game based on just the power level of her kit. I mean, come on, she freaking does everything. The next up is ISO, and ISO is the new kid on the block, but very strong at both solo carrying and team rushing. His wall ability allows him to easily rush onto point with his team, and he can create a ton of space in a worse way than Jett and Raze, but easier for low elo players to follow up with, and it kind of matches that slower pace of play. Now, make sure that when you're using your ISO ult, though, use it for site takes, post plants, and in situations where your team can trade even if you lose. Next up, we do got to talk about Killjoy, and Killjoy just has some of the highest intrinsic value. This means automatically, just being Killjoy means that your impact can only go so low even if you die over and over. Killjoy's utility is just very hard to play around, and if you know the right setups and how to mix them up, you can get a ton of value, and we have just a simple guide on the SkillCapped website to knowing how to do this. You can check it out if you want. Next off, we do got to talk about Phoenix, and Phoenix has a very high ranked win rate. He simply does many agents' job, and when you can't count on people doing their jobs, it's nice to be able to flash, to take an angle, wall off, or clear a corner if needed. Now, the advice I'll give you on Phoenix is prioritize your utility, setting up better engagements over healing almost always, as it's going to create more one fights, and that little bit of HP you're going to gain is not worth the value that you get denying a certain bit of information or line of sight, or forcing an enemy to swing out in an unfair gunfight. Last up is Cypher, and Cypher is so strong at punishing mistakes in low elo, and surprise, surprise, in low elo people make a ton of them. Cypher also gathers a crazy amount of information with lurks backed by utility that deny rotations and give info to your team. Now, to do this well, simply push up slowly upon information that the enemy is pushing another site, and then you're going to cut off a closer, unpredictable angle with utility. If the enemy rotate into you, they're not going to play around it or clear it, and you're going to be able to get a free kill, and then you must run away to secure your kill in the bag without getting traded, and hold space onto point, and then your opponent's in a really bad situation where they're either pushing into you or they're rotating again back to your team, but down a man. Now we're going to talk about the S tier, characters that are either essential or have everything you need to carry a game. I mean, put them in your straight up backpack, and who better personifies that than Reyna? Reyna is still the queen of solo carry, and she also happens to work really well when people just want to rush everything in low elo. With her flash that doesn't blind her allies and the ability to just rush onto site and just do a little damage and get full freaking shields, she's crazy in eco, and she's just crazy overall at being able to carry an entire game on her back. Now, you might think that you need crazy aim to frag out on Reyna though, but a lot of top Reynas don't even pop off that hard. There's actually a ton of nuance that goes into Reyna, and we go over that on our new Reyna course, so check it out. It's Reyna in 10 minutes. It's down below. And next up, we do going to talk about Viper, and Viper is still the most necessary agent in the game that just doesn't have a replacement. Now, she's not needed on every single map, but the vast majority, you put yourself at a huge disadvantage if you just don't have a Viper, because she's the only one that can split maps like Breeze, and you absolutely need that. That being said, a good Viper player can just literally print free wins if you're patient, play around your utility, and learn your lineups. I mean, it's just literally free high elo. I'm not joking. The next up is Omen, and Omen is still one of the best lurkers in the game with utility to help his team entry, stall, and make plays. He's the perfect mix of essential and impactful that you can carry so many freaking games with. Now, as a general rule of thumb, these are the three situations you want to use your ultimate with. Either with pressure, so that the enemies either have to choose between you or your team, and you're getting value no matter what. To gain information, if you're ulting on a site to see if enemies are lurking or rotating or whatever. Or to rotate yourself and go get the plant down. These are the most reliable ways to get impact, and you should be thinking hard if you're using it in a different way than this. Now, last but certainly not least, we have Raze. And Raze is still one of the strongest agents, period, even after all of her nerfs, and the best solo carry agent in low elo by far. Raze can take space, outplay enemies with movement, and clear utility with all of her utility. She's basically everything you need to have high impact in low elo, and the sky's the limit on this character. So really, I can't suggest her enough. Raze is the #1 solo carry low elo agent. But definitely let us know if you think we misplaced any of the agents in this video, and let us know what agents you want to see buffed next down below. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.